So today we are going to get into our top second baseman. This list just as difficult, if not more, than the others that we've had to do because honestly, it could be 6, 7, 8 names that are intertwined between this top five.
Well, 2 top guys just got moved to second base all of a sudden.
That's the other problem, and I actually forgot one almost that he's going to be a second baseman every day this season. So my number 5 starts off with the longest tenured player on the Diamondbacks roster, Ketel Marte, who had a breakout season back in 2019, had a drop-off after hitting in 2019 32 homers, finishing 4th in the NL MVP vote that season, dropped off the next 2 seasons. 2023, though, we got Marte coming back hot and heavy. He was top in slugging amongst primary second basemen, also top in assists, top in double plays, not to mention last year finished with a 4.9 WAR, his slashes, 276, 358, 485, and then hit 25 homers, and also etched his name into the postseason career record books, I should say, when he had his hitting streak extended 20. We remember that. It was not great at all, but Ketel Marte starts things off for me at number 5.
Yeah, he's a guy I end up with a lot in fantasy baseball because he's always just steady. For me, number 5 is a newcomer to second base, the forgotten one out in San Diego behind Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr., but Xander Bogaerts is a phenomenal player. He's making the switch to second base. Apparently looks pretty seamless from some of the Twitter video researching I was doing. 4.4 WAR last year. His OPS plus was a 120. He can bat for average. He can get on base. He's got a little bit of pop right around that 20 home run mark. But, if the RBIs get up a little bit, this guy can be an 85-plus run scored, 85-plus RBI type of guy. He's got that type of potential. Pretty good fielder, so much so you can move him around the diamond a little bit. So he's number 5 for me.
Yeah, guys, this was a really difficult one for me because there was about 7 guys I wanted to put at number 5, and I ended up leaving Xander Bogaerts off my list because of a value here.
Crush.
There is a value here between offense and defense, and if you're taking offense, it's Xander Bogaerts, right? 360 or so OBP over the last couple of seasons.
Last year, yeah.
The guy offensively has been good, and like you mentioned, he's good enough with the glove to move around the diamond. But the guy that I'm going with at number 5 is a step down offensively, but I think he's 2 steps up defensively, and it's Andrés Giménez from the Cleveland Guardians.
That's your boy.
A 5+ defensive WAR over the last 2 seasons, and honestly, the number comparison between Giménez and Bogaerts they're not as significant as you think that they are offensively. Giménez over the last 2 years, 286 hits, 32 home runs. He's stolen 50 bags. He's sneaky quick. He's got back-to-back Gold Gloves now for Cleveland. And I think he is one of those guys that another guy we talked about a couple of players like this where if he played for maybe a better team, he might get a little bit more recognition. I think he's good offensively, and he's elite defensively, and it's why he makes my top 5.
Well, Giménez is in my honorable mention. He was close. He did not crack my top 5, but I absolutely could see the case for it. Next I'm going with, and we have him to thank for Attaboy Harper, Mr. Ozzie Albies himself. Listen, this Braves roster is stacked, and it's unfortunate to see that, you got to talk positively about someone like Ozzie Albies, but here we go. I'm doing my best. Just 26 years old, still very young, still very talented. One of the names that when you look across this roster, you might overlook a bit because of the likes of Ronald Acuna. But last year, 4.7 WAR, 13 stolen bases, had 33 homers, 109 RBIs, and a 124 OPS plus. So for me, I just feel like Ozzie Albies is a solid number 4 second baseman.
Mine's also
it's okay, Tyler.
Albies. 109 RBIs last year, almost 100 runs scored. To me, when you can be a 100-run score, 100-plus RBI guy, it doesn't get much better than that. A 280 average last year, 4.7 WAR. Not to mention just one of the most team-friendly contracts in all of baseball.
Yeah.
The Braves have an absolute
4
bargain.
years, $28 million left.
Jeez. It's free. Ozzie Albies, I was trying to find a reason not to have him in my top 5, and I couldn't do it.
Same.
He's a really freaking good player.
Listen,
all right, anyway, we
gotta roll.
We got to get
Tyler, who
going.
you got?
Here's my number
Guys
4.
are sabotaging.
I
I'm moving
absolutely
along.
love this guy. This guy is the closest thing that we have in this day and age to Tony Gwynn. Now, no disrespect to Tony Gwynn. He's the greatest hitter I've ever seen in terms of average and getting on base. This is the closest guy we have to Tony Gwynn. It's Luis Ariz from the Miami Marlins. Over the last 2 years, he's led the league in batting average.
Pretty good hitter.
Both seasons. Defensively, he's okay. He's right about an average defensive second baseman, but a 354 average last year, a near 400 OBP. This guy, all he does is get on base. He doesn't walk a lot, but he just gets hits. 276 hits over the last 2 seasons. He's led the league in batting average both times. A Silver Slugger, an All-Star each of the last 2 years. A rare occurrence where a trade actually worked for both teams, where Ariz has flourished in Miami, Pablo Lopez has soared in Minnesota. A really good trade for both of these teams. Luis Ariz is my number 4.
Yeah, his batting average is eye-popping.
Very much so. And it's so eye-popping it landed him number 3 on my list because Luis Ariz is my number 3 second baseman. I did have trouble with, I know Ozzy Albies has been injured. That's what had me put him at number 4 because, of course, 2022, I know there were comments about him being injury-plagued that I wanted to hit on. But Luis Ariz, his batting average, the everything that you said, Tyler, that 4.9 WAR last year, 133 OPS plus, his splits, he's just number 3. We got time. We don't have time. So
he's really good. For number 3 for me, Jose Altuve. I mean, this guy just he had a down year last year, and his down year was almost a 3 WAR still. Really good glove. Hits for average, a 311 batting average last year. His RBIs and runs were down a little bit from where he is. His on base is approaching a 400. He didn't have a full season of work last year. I expect a bounce back for Jose Altuve. He's just a guy, cheating or not, finds the back of his baseball card pretty much every single year. So Jose Altuve is just, first ballot unanimous Hall of Famer. This guy's an absolute stud.
Yeah,
still.
Not much more to say. I'm also going with Jose Altuve. You look at last year, he only played 90 games. He only had 360 at-bats, but he still hit 311, near 400 OBP. The guy is a career 307 hitter. He is, like you said, Jamie, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He broke 2,000 hits last year. He needs 953 more hits. He's only 33, heading into his 34th season to break the 3,000 mark. I could see his 162-game average is 199 hits. I could see him getting to the 3,000 mark and being the next hitter to join the 3,000 hit parade.
He's one of the only guys with a chance.
Jose Altuve, for me, is still a top second baseman in baseball.
Yeah.
Well, as we get to our final 2, you notice there's a few names that are still lingering on my list, and somebody's not going to get in. And Jose is out.
I was going to say, I figured.
Yeah,
Jose.
He's the one. I mean, it was close. He is also in my honorable
one
mention.
One of those spots is going to the best player in baseball.
Yep.
So one spot left.
Number 2 for me is going with the guy that played all 162 regular season games for his team, led the AL in hits, led also in runs. He's offensively and elite defensively, Marcus Semien. Now, 7.4 WAR last year. He has been the best second baseman in baseball. 29 homers, 267, 348, 478 splits. Listen, he's held the top spot for this position for a while now until my number 1 moved to second base. So not only is he a great hitter, he's durable, he's consistent, he checks all the boxes. He's the best second baseman until he wasn't. Because my number 1.
Yeah, he's my number 2. If a certain guy wasn't moving from outfield to second base, he'd probably be number 1. A 7.4 WAR last year, 122 runs scored with 100 RBIs, nearly a 350 on base. His OPS plus was 122. OPS 826, slugging 478. Like, what's not to like about Marcus Semien? The Rangers paid handsomely for Semien and Corey Seager up the middle of their defense, and I would say that was worth it because these guys were the engine that won a World Series for them last year. Marcus Semien is just tremendous, and like I said, if it's not for a certain somebody number 1, he's probably the top second baseman in baseball.
Yeah, not a lot of allure or mystery in the top 2. It's Marcus Semien. The only thing that I'm going to add outside of the offensive productivity that you guys put out was Marcus Semien, second in defensive runs saved among second basemen last year with a 16. The only player who had more was my number 5 guy, Andres Gimenez. He finished with 23, but Marcus Semien finished 11th in Major League Baseball with 16 DRS last year. So on top of all the offensive production, a defensively skilled second baseman as well. I'm going to go Marcus Semien at number 2 as well.
And number one, who we all have, and I know in the chat you guys are already talking about him. We're gonna get number one, Mookie Betts. No surprise there. Moving to second base, he's happy. Apparently, this is the position he wants to play. He said he's never really considered himself a right fielder. He's considered himself more of a middle infielder. Well, Mookie Betts sliding into second base every day is wild to think about because of the numbers that he posted. He became the first player in AL or NL history to play at least 15 games at both middle infield spots and the outfield, slugging .500. He also had an OPS 754 at right field, 724 at second base. His numbers last year are 39 homers, 107 RBIs, his splits 307, 408, 579, 987 OPS. Mookie Betts is one of the best in baseball. And his numbers, his productivity, I know in the chat, someone said if he retired today, he'd be an instant Hall of Famer. There's nothing bad you can say about Mookie Betts. It's a no-brainer. He's without a doubt the best second baseman. And I know we all agree on that. Him playing second base is going to be fun to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, it kind of makes me
Phillies.
wonder how good he's going to be at second base if he's a Gold Glove winner in the outfield and he goes, well, second's my real position.
Exactly. It's terrifying to think about.
His career WAR already is 64.5.
Insane.
That's insane. He's a 6-time Silver Slugger, 6-time Gold Glove winner, 2-time World Series winner, 126 runs scored, 107 RBIs last year's OPS plus was 163 with that 8.3 WAR. Best player in baseball, I think, is pretty safe to say. If him and Ohtani becomes an interesting discussion because Ohtani can pitch. But if you're just talking about true positional players, he's the best in baseball with a couple nipping at his heels, and he just continues to keep him at arm's length.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of argument here. It's Mookie Betts. He's, to me, the best player in baseball, and to me, he's been the best player in baseball for a couple of seasons now.
64.5 WAR at age 31.
It's insane. His versatility is off the charts. He could probably play 6 or 7 different positions at this point. I would feel comfortable with him at short. He can play all three outfield positions, and he's going to be their starting second baseman this year.
What was Boston thinking?
Couldn't tell you, especially with the return that he got. It's all they got. It was awful. So the fact that Mookie Betts is transitioning to a new position this year and he's number one on the list in a landslide fashion tells you how good of a baseball player he is. He is the best player in Major League Baseball. If I were starting a team today, there is not a single player in Major League Baseball I would take over Mookie Betts. Sorry, not a positional player in baseball I would take over Mookie Betts in the entirety of the league. You could argue the Shohei Ohtani conversation, of course, but Mookie Betts is, to me, the best pure positional player in all of baseball.